yes, you heard it right, the Scourge is actually returning at the end of the Shadowlands. We have determined an entire questline from 9.2.5 after the Jailer's defeat, where a significant undead force is attacking Quaterlas, while also indicating that the situation in Northrend is beyond dire. So what exactly is this new information? Who is leading the Scourge? And didn't we actually defeat them? How are they still a threat? And could this be the setup for the next expansion? If you want to support an indie MMORPG built by a team of few but passionate people, check out Scars of Honor. They've recently made leaps in development, here test servers, and if you want to become an active supporter, you can register for various tiers of accounts where you can join in on future tests and get a bunch of perks, and you can also join their Discord server to stay up to date. Check out Scars of Honor. The main part of the information comes from the 9.2.5 PTR that is currently available, meaning that all this stuff actually occurs after that cinematic when the Jailer is defeated at the end of the new raid and the sky is closed, which definitely makes the entire matter a bit confusing. If you remember, in the Shadowlands pre-patch, Bolvar was defeated by Sylvanas in that cinematic and the Lich King was no more, which gave Jailer direct control over the undead army that just launched countless attacks against us, which ended up not really being that big of a deal. It was more overblown than the actual reality that happened. Since then, they had been pretty much entirely dormant. We didn't learn anything about them throughout the Shadowlands, but all of a sudden they appear in multiple zones and seem to be attacking in an organized manner, meaning someone must be behind them. Obviously, the Scourge no longer has the Lich King or the Jailer to lead them, and since we defeated the Scourge like 5 times now, there is no way they believe they have enough force to conquer the planet. So who exactly could be leading this attack, and could the entire thing just be a diversion for the next expansion and what is to come? Now, to examine this further, let us look at information that is actually presented to us. This is a Blood Elven questline for all those that are exalted with Silvermoon, and it starts out in Oribos, where Lady Liadrin and an entourage that requests our immediate assistance, as she tells us there have been reports of a coordinated Scourge attack on Quaterlas Ghostlands, mainly the town of Tranquillien. We then go to Silvermoon, where we are a part of the meeting of the Blood Elven leadership. Obviously, Lord Temar Teron, Eta Sunriver, and Grand Magister Romat, together with Lady Liadrin, where they say that this is just not some random attack of some group of renegade undead mindlessly wandering around, but that in fact the attack seems incredibly organized, and whether the rest of the horde should come to their aid. Now, seeing that the attack is happening like right now, they're just like killing people right now, they realize there is no point in waiting for a larger force to gather, and they instead send out the trainees. Interestingly enough, a Blood Elf that was part of the Children's Week. Now, what is interesting here is that we go from Oribos to Silvermoon through a portal, even though the sky is closed after the Jailer's defeat, and this happens post Zereth Mortis, which means that while the rift is no longer there above the Icecrown Citadel, we somehow still have access to the Shadowlands and will probably continue to do so in the foreseeable future, meaning we're probably going to interact with all these Shadowlands people for at least some time. Well, after we agree, we are sent to the Blood Elven town, where the entire place is just swarming with undead Scourge forces, and we are tasked with killing them and setting up the defenses. However, most interestingly, we learn that they're led by a Sun Line. Now, if you don't know who these guys are, there are Blood Elves that fell in battle against the Lich King as they fought shoulder to shoulder with Kiltas, and then they were raised by Arthas. They are at this point just incredibly few in numbers, but are one of the most intelligent beings of the Scourge, pretty much one of the few brains left in this mindless undead army. Now, their leader, this guy, managed to set up some sort of a crystal so that he can be killed for good, and Romat realizes that the surge of magic is coming from Deathholm, the Scourge Citadel and Ghostlands, which seems to be the heart of this entire attack. We learn that the Sunline is trying to cheat death, so we realize that the only way we can defeat him is to go into the Shadowlands, the actual source of death and undeath, and to empower a weapon to finally get rid of him. First, we go to Bastion, where we actually get help from a fallen Blood Elf that is now a Kyrian, and he pretty much no longer remembers his past. And then we go to Maldraxxus, where our weapon is actually finally empowered. Then, with this weapon, we go to the Dead Scar in Quaterlas, fight all the way into Deathholm, and ultimately defeat the Sunline for good. Now, as this happens, the attack is over and the incursion is put to an end, but what happens afterwards is the most interesting interesting bit and a pretty big hint for the future. Lortima says, I need to inform the Ebon Blade, as if the attack was so strong here, where the Scourge forces are really few and far between, so close to Silvermoon, it must be way worse in Northrend, where their center of power is. Now, at this point in time, we don't really know what happens in Northrend, but this here is the really interesting bit. See, the Scourge was almost entirely shattered when we defeated Arthas all the way back in Wrath of the Lich King. Then it remained as a shell of its former self under Bolvar. Bolvar didn't really expand it any further, aside from a few minor improvements, and then when Bolvar was defeated, the Scourge was just launching suicide attacks on us, meaning we culled quite a bit of their numbers. Now, we know for a fact in the pre-patch they were directly mind controlled by the Jailer, and prior to that, the Lich King. However, the Lich King is no more, the Jailer is now just an inanimate object, so who exactly is leading this Scourge? Who could be behind this attack? Seeing that some officers are still there, the more intelligent beings remained, it is possible that a few groups are acting on their own will, which also used to happen with the Scourge in the past on isolated locations, but honestly, I just kinda doubt that is likely. If the incident was isolated to just quote a lust, then yeah, sure, I can really buy that, but if they're about to launch a way bigger attack on Northrend, then there must be some sort of an intelligent form that is leading this assault. There must be some sort of a purpose behind this entire sudden campaign. Now, we get an actual conversation with Darien and Bolvar in regards to these actual attacks. According to them, the mightiest of the officers of the Scourge are just vying for power amongst themselves, so this seems to be some sort of an inside thing with the Scourge, just like a free-for-all. However, they also talk about how the Ice Crown Citadel is a significant seat of power and it must never fall into anyone's hands. It isn't clear what the complete context of this is, but it is possible that they might not actually have the full information on these attacks, that they only believe it is the independent factions, but it might not really be them. My best guess right now, and the speculation I had since months, is that it might be the role that Natrius will play in the future. It was obviously hinted in that cinematic that he will continue to be a part of World of Warcraft in the future, and he didn't really do anything, like pretty much nothing in 9.2, even though they said they wanted to continue using him as a villain. Maybe it wasn't him directly, it could be possible that his Dreadlord agents took control over the remnants of the Undead Army and are acting on his behalf, which would be the most likely. After all, it was the Dreadlord that even created the Scourge in the first place. However, what I think is the most important bit to note is that I don't believe this is actually intended to be anything significant. I think this might just be setting up for the next expansion, the next big villain, and there is no way that Atreus, as the mastermind he is, that he believed that he would take over the world with the remnants of the Undead Army that failed like countless times. Maybe he is just trying to splinter us and to get us to go to various parts of the world to tie down our forces so that we can provide a united resistance for the future threat. This honestly would make the most amount of sense, as the Scourge no longer really serves a purpose, so let's just waste what is left to at least weaken a bit of resistance and to set up the ground for what is to come. Now, if this is not an Atreus or the Dreadlords, then I think it could be the same scenario, just with a different leader, maybe the Void, maybe this next big what is to come. While it is also possible that these are just independent Scourge factions causing chaos for the sake of chaos, I honestly doubt it, and this could definitely be a big hint for what is to come in the future, especially if Lordaeron is involved, and possibly even the Dragon Isles that are probably north of Lordaeron. We've also had some recent hints with the parts of former Lordaeron being reworked, a new shield being introduced just at the end of 9.2, so all this stuff could definitely be a pretty big clue for the next expansion. Thank you for watching. Check out what were Sylvanas' actual motives by clicking on the screen, and check out the Notes Academy for videos on real-world history. See you next time.